until, even though the grades are not completely ready to go until the 15th, which is Tuesday, on the last official day of our class will be on the 13th. Now, as far as things go, we will be doing our last posting this week, and we'll also be doing our final. Because time got a little compressed on me, and on you too, I don't want you to be at a detriment. So just to let you know, there is no proctor for the final. Instead, the final, as you can see from the announcements that was sent out this morning, and that I will send out again, is located under exams and quizzes. It'll be open later on this afternoon. You'll be able to go in here. It'll be available at 3 p.m. today. You can access it. The final is open book, open note. I'm really not looking for you to do in the sense of memorization, wrote ideas, just put out there, but really, and you can see there are 2 questions. I'm looking for a fully developed essay, something along the lines of 3 to 5 paragraphs for each of the questions. There are 2 of them. I took out the passage identification because I figured with kind of posting and also finishing up the semester, you might be a little crazy. So the first question is of the writers and poets that we read during the last half of this course, so basically after week 6, which of them may best represents the voice, the spirit, the hopes of America? Which one of them is the least representative? And define your argument and defend it. There's no right or wrong answer. I'm looking for you to make a good case. And the second question is, in looking back over the last half of this course and looking over the last 50 years of American literature, would you think that American literature is getting better or worse? Is your answer based on whether you think it is more optimistic or pessimistic in its themes? Develop your answer using examples from at least 3 of the writers or poets from the last half of the course. Once again, no right or wrong answer, except I'm looking for well-defined and well-argued. And that's the entire final. You can use your notes, you can use your books. I'm really looking, like I said, for 3 to 5 paragraphs of really developed and supported reasoning. And this will be open this afternoon. We also have our last readings. So what I would probably recommend is that you can go ahead and go into the discussion area and do the readings. The readings are fairly short for this week. We're exploring postmodernity and postcolonialism. This is also a great way for you to organize and think about your final because it will be very helpful in kind of preparing this idea of has literature got better or worse. And like I said, you'll post your areas there and then you can take your final. I was really excited when I was reading your selections for the 1950s and beyond in a way. I saw that most of you really did put a good amount of effort into your explorations. I really enjoyed, in fact, almost everyone this time received hundreds. Like they got 50 for their posts, 50 for their responses. I mean, Priscilla's observations right here would represent a really solid answer to the final. I mean, of course, thematically, you'd want to make it tuned towards the questions. And I really like that Jennifer really focuses on this, kind of responding back to these observations, as does Ryan. And I love that Ryan mentions this idea that there are other aspects of the story that strongly reflect the writing style of that age. Really thinking about how are these pieces of the time and for all time. I also appreciate Jennifer's discussion of Good Country People, which is an interesting notion of struggling, the notion of relying on education, the idea of kind of taking an idea that was a little depressing or unpleasant to read, but really kind of thinking about the ironies and the developments. And if you want to take a little bit more of an insight into O'Connor's life, you will see that she herself suffered from a form of lupus and experienced quite a bit of, I guess you'd say, disability. I appreciated Ryan's observations and the connections that were back in relation to the swimmer. Now, I know that no one really mentioned it, but did anyone feel that the swimmer, every time I read the swimmer since Mad Men has come out, I keep thinking of Don Draper, because it just has this sense of kind of pessimism with a shine on it, but the shine doesn't go that deep. And I really like that most of you connected in one way or another to this kind of journey that Ned was on. So that was an excellent observation. I also, of course, thought that Dina's, I'm sorry, that Dina's connection, once again, with Ned and kind of thinking about the perfect family and this idea in the 1950s leading to the 1960s that this ontological certainty of everything's going to be okay, of the American dream, really was being deconstructed both from the outside and from the inside. Clyde picks up on a little bit of this kind of pessimism in relation to Flannery O'Connor, that she is very aware of the pessimistic perspective of classes and inequities of gender, race, etc., which is another thing that was being, like I should say, contradicted and explored within the text. Um, Now, I do also see in Curtis's observations when we go through it. We do have the swimmer. Kristen, kind of, I guess you'd say, picks up on some of the ideas of kind of the downtrodden or kind of ruining your life or of things kind of ossifying or atrophying. And I think that those are some great connections to make, as does Lorenzo make when he suggests in The Good Country People that, this idea about pulling in from the overview that they're really not free, free mans, that they could be free. This notion of the highest creativity. These ideas are related to these are ideas are related to a pessimism that grows out of this period. Postmodernism, much like modernism, is filled with a sense of something's wrong. But with postmodernity, there's a sense that, okay, something's wrong, but we can't even approach it. I really like that Saul Bellow is mentioned in Kristen's, and that also O'Connor is pulled in. And I think that overall, Kristen's represents an excellent focus. And as Shannon mentioned, she's really enjoyed reading the posts. I loved reading them too. I think that Kristen did a great job, and many of you guys did in this class, of really thinking about how literature works, and not just saying I liked it or I didn't like it, but really thinking about, here's what I see going on in it, here's some evidence that supports what I see going on in it, and this is what I think about it, which ultimately is why we study literature. That's the way we study any aspect. In fact, there was just in the New York Times on Saturday a little article about reading literature actually makes you more emotionally intelligent. And I think that that's one of the things that, like, for instance, in this one from Shannon, when she pulls in this notion of the swimmer, this realization, that this idea of suppressing so many things, everything kind of being below the surface, like the surface of the pool, is so key to take not just from your understanding of the story, but then to take it into your own life. And I do think that these are the skills that you've built in this course, and I hope that you can take them with you. Um, I do also appreciate kind of this notion of disorder, mental disorder, mental breakdowns from Kayla. That also ties in with the sense of emotional intelligence, this emotional IQ that is developed from your writing and from reading. Sharon mentioned some key points in the sense of Good Country People, this idea of this metaphor, this ivory tower, this notion of being kissed, this self-confidence, this kind of debate back and forth. And this is, these are real things that were being debated and argued, but not at the level of right and wrong, but at the level of shades of right and wrong. Scott pulled in some great ideas about the connections between the Adventures of Augie March and Good Country People. Kind of the growing up, being of the urban and being of the country, and kind of that bind between each other that really is getting disjointed as in the 50s into the 60s and 70s people begin to leave small towns and farms shifting from a much more agrarian lifestyle into a much more urbanite lifestyle. And we still see that happening to this day. And so kind of that tension from back and forth is really popped up also in John's observations that focus on the connections between disappointments, where you live, geography, etc. Now, Terry pulls in some great ideas in relation to, kind of the author and how the author fits in. I like that that is is something that you're thinking about, because as we mentioned, remember that M.H. Abrams argues that you can either take, you can look at the piece of literature from the perspective of what it says about the author, what it says about the reader, what it says about the culture of the time, or what it says about the universe or all things. And this is, it's always good to keep in mind about what you're relating your readings to. And of course, Troy presented some really, I guess you'd say, a good little metaphor himself for thinking about driving as he's reading through these texts, which, much like Nettie swimming through, we can kind of go back and forth. So, as I mentioned, I really appreciate the work that you've done. My plan is, of course, to make sure that the final is available. You can go into it as many times as you want, so you can pop in today, look at it, draft, pop in tomorrow, draft some more. You can do your postings, you can do all of that this week. And then I'm hoping by next Sunday to have kind of everything kind of collected and have preliminary grades. If any of you want to submit extra credit, please feel free to email it to me and or to post it. I look forward to seeing your work this week, and have a good day.